Blessed be. Today is May 2nd, and it is National Brother and Sister Day. A day dedicated to your siblings, those who have been there for you through the good times and the bad, and some people who probably know you a lot more than anybody else. I am the youngest of my siblings. I have one brother and one sister. And in general, we all have a really good relationship with each other. Good family. And I do appreciate them. So this might be one of the days where I reach out and just give them a call just for the sake of it. Might as well. I've already been dealing with a lot of communication today. One of the things I did at work today was kind of start posting some questions online. This was more into the CAD groups, not quite the particular official forums. And some of the things I asked about was someone had asked the question about how they evaluate their employees. So I kind of threw in there question of how much value do they put into the Autodesk certifications. I'm curious as to the real world interest in what the certifications would provide. My work is talking about getting us certified. I love certifications. I'm all for it. I'm a level 2 NICET certificated in fire alarm. And that has opened more doors for me than my associate's degree in interior design. So, but yeah, just interested to get a pulse for how the community views the certifications. Then I posted another question about seeing if any users, like say CAD managers, are using Sharepoint as their depository for connecting all the users to source file. One person so far has replied that they are using it. Gave some tips with some vernacular. I'm not real sure what it means, but I took some notes. So as I dive into how SharePoint works, hopefully I'll gain some context to his suggestions. So hopefully I could get some more replies on that one. The other question that I posted, because I've just discovered this recently, today, because I'm messing around with the title blocks. So I've got the one file that I've created, and so I've got different layouts, and then I'm doing them at different sizes, the 24 by 36 and the 30 by 42. And so as I find whatever title block, it's got the right sheet size to go with it. And the one thing that I noticed was, just copying and pasting in the example title blocks I'd received from my peers, that the insertion at 00 left overhang. And so now we're dealing with page size and full bleed versus not. So the question I am posting online is what I did a dive to what full bleed means, which has to do with printing to the edge of the page, not leaving an intentional white space gap border around. But in regards to AutoCAD, what need do you have for full bleed? At what point do you really care if it goes all the way to the edge? I just don't understand the necessity of the full bleed setting. So I'm sure there is one. I've never, done my own compare and contrast deep dive into this thing. That's how I like figuring out a lot of stuff, but this is getting pretty intense. And so just hoping somebody else has had some experience and can post some information as to what problem that solved. Full bleed solves this problem. Blah. We'll see. Hopefully I asked a good enough question to merit a response from what would be nice to be multiple users, because that's the whole point of posting our questions. Unless the first answer is just a technical correct one, then we don't need multiple options. But I think this one is kind of like a variable of opinion and things like that. We'll see. So those were my 3 questions that I put into the world today. AutoCAD certification value, can you make SharePoint work, and what's the value of the full bleed in your page size, paper size. Which you'd think that would be all I did today, but no, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Actually, that was a large chunk of the iceberg. Some of the tip work that I did, I am doing 2 meetings tomorrow with my group. Usually we meet at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and last week when I presented what this week's meeting was going to be about, I have a peer who I know is highly interested in the subject, but he had a scheduling conflict. So I decided to, because I want his opinion. He's got one, and I want him to participate in this. So, and he wants to also. But I do not want to mess with the schedule of my meeting. There's one thing I fully believe is, we are creatures of habit, and I don't want to throw off everybody else's schedule to accommodate one, because then when can I draw the line and not have to move my meeting over? So I'll do 2 meetings. And so my regularly scheduled meeting, we are going to dive into LinkedIn Learning. We're just going to kind of cover it as a group, make sure everybody's signed in and knows how to access it now through being associated and paid for with work. And then I want to make sure everybody kind of knows how to use it. How do you save? How do you put a collection in? And things like that. Maybe we can come up with, each individual goals and things like that. I want to break down the conversation, what you could get from LinkedIn Learning for those, if anybody hasn't used it, hard skills and soft skills and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of AutoCAD stuff on there, but I was talking to someone the other day. I was like, I'm going to focus on more like OneNote, and then SharePoint and stuff like that to really get a more intimate familiarity with these softwares, because it's what we're using at the company, and I am not naturally intuitive to the way they work. So, gives me something to study and focus on, but I've got to really schedule that time. Definitely didn't do any today, but it's still early. Yeah, so setting up with the meeting with having 2 separate meetings, I took my agenda and split it, did a 1.1 and a 1.2 to make sure each agenda stays on topic. So I was happy I remembered to do that. And then with the second agenda, I even remembered to update the time listed on there, which took me a second to do. I was like, oh yeah, it's not 11 a.m., it's at 1 p.m. And so it's all ready to go. And then the other thing we've got to work on is reviewing a document about our drawing procedure, because we're developing it all. And so that's been created and for review. I touched it this morning. I think I put in 8 comments in the first 3 paragraphs. It's like, okay, I'll come back to this a little later. And that's when I jumped to title blocks and stuff like that. So it was a very full day for dives into things. So I'm excited to have posted those questions. I look forward to finding some replies, hopefully. And yeah, making progress on all the other things. If you'd like to hear more entries into the CAD Witch's Grimoire, don't forget to hit subscribe. And until next time, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.